report here from the Lakeville, Brunswick. And I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, not a better subject, and I know everybody is about ready for some football. And Jim,
true.
We're going to talk a little bit about Viking football today. It's called the Armchair Report, and you and I are going to discuss it here tonight.
These are armchairs.
Yeah, they got armchairs on them. You've been down to Mankato. You've been to camp with the Minnesota Vikings. First of all, I just want to ask you, what's it like to go down to Mankato? What's the scene like, seeing the players riding in on bicycles and stay in the dormitories?
It's a really bonding situation, a lot like spring training is for you
Sure.
with the Twins, where you're there every day and you're in that clubhouse hanging around, and it's small and it's cramped and it's smelly. The same thing happens in Mankato for those guys. I mean, they don't have their Escalades, they don't have their Maseratis.
Sure.
They're on a 10-speed, and they have to pedal to classrooms, they have to pedal to practice. They go right by the fans, so fans are hollering, they'll stop and sign autographs.
Right.
And it kind of brings everybody back down to the same level.
To the simple level of when football was just a game, and you as a kid in the neighborhood picked your 4 or picked your 5 and went and challenged the other neighborhood. Is that what you're trying to get to back
I think so. And Leslie Frazier, everybody was asking him during the lockout that, you know, if we get to the point where, you know, we lose some of the time or some of the preseason games, will you just hold training camp at Winter Park? And he was adamant about waiting until the very last moment before he would have possibly had to cut out Mankato.
Right.
Because he wanted that togetherness with his team. He didn't want to be in Eden Prairie where they could go home after practice.
Yes.
They can go to their hotels, or, you know, for the players that are new. They wanted them jammed in those dorms. 2 guys, 300 pounds on a bed that's 6 feet long.
A twin bed, right?
Yep, with the window, or worse, the bunk beds. You get a 300-pound guy above you. You don't know if that's.
You
got to
be careful, right?
All night.
You know what, Jim? That's what it's all about. And I know, being a baseball player back in the day, that spring training was a bonding. I also played football, and I know football is very much a team sport, because you can only do well if the other guy executes his job, makes his block, you make your cut, and the guys downfield are blocking. The Minnesota Vikings come into this year, drafted number 1 a quarterback, Mr. Christian Ponder. But they went out and got Mr. Donovan McNabb. What has his attributes been as far as bringing something to the ball club?
Well, everybody's comparing him between Brett Favre and McNabb. And Favre came in with a lot more fanfare.
A lot of baggage.
And he didn't go to Mankato.
Exactly.
Both years he figured out a way to stay out of there because it's just not him, apparently. Mm-hmm. McNabb has said every answer correctly. He's excited to be here, even though he's washed out in Washington and Philadelphia.
Right.
This is his last swing, and I feel that that's the way he's approaching this. That he's fine taking Christian Ponder under his wing.
Right.
He's fine with Adrian being the star. He's just here to facilitate, himself getting a new contract.
Yes, sir.
Because he's on a 1-year, $5 million deal with the Vikings.
And let's not remember that part. The fact that they brought in Michael Vick in Philadelphia, even as a third-string guy, he already had a little heat on him from the number 2. And now it turns out they get rid of Donovan after they secure the fancy-footed Michael Vick, because they thought they could replace him. And athletes are very macho-nistic, or however you want to say it. The guy's got pride. He's coming here to Minnesota with a new head coach, replacing Brett Favre, and giving Ponder an opportunity to learn his skills, Jim. Do you think it's going to work? Do you think he can get that contract here for a couple of years just because of the potential strike that did not happen this year?
I think he's looking at it as a situation he's trying to get a contract anywhere.
Right.
And what he does here is an audition for the other 31 clubs.
Sure.
And if the Vikings feel Ponder is ready, no matter what kind of year Donovan has, I think they'll move ahead in that direction, unless he is just magnificent. But the team has so many holes that they have to fill in other positions that I don't see this team as an NFC championship team like when Favre came in, the Vikings had
The
everything.
pieces were there.
Everything but a quarterback.
quarterback.
And he came in, and besides filling that void, he also really lifted his teammates. You know, you could say what you want about Favre and his baggage, but there was an NFL Films clip that they had the mic on him during a game, and he did more coaching than Brad Childress.
Right.
He was there lobbying Bevel to go to Rice.
Right.
He was there with his arm around Rice saying, look, you do that same move on him, I got you.
See, and that's what you have to have on a championship team. I'm not saying rebuke what the coaches send in, but you have to have, especially in football, more so than any other sport, you've got to react as it's happening. You feel the tempo, you know the huddle, and that's what Brett Favre brings in. And I think that Donovan McNabb has some of that karma. He also has Adrian Peterson in his backfield, but he's got to get the receivers so he can succeed, and he knows that.
That's what's going to be his big problem, is finding a deep threat downfield, because what's going to happen is teams will put 8, 9 men in the box against you if they don't have to respect the deep ball. And with Sidney, that opened it up for Adrian in 09 when he had his breakout year. Adrian got the real estate where he could have space to work, and it was a perfect storm for the Vikings. They need Aroma Shadu to step up. They need Bernard Berrien to find himself again. They need a deep threat or Jenkins to come through, because if those guys don't come through, teams are going to pile it up. And even though they have great tight ends, those guys don't go deep. Percy's not a deep threat.
No,
he's a slot guy.
Yes, he is.
And it keeps everybody all near the line of scrimmage, which is going to be a problem.
Now, Jim, I want to ask you this question. The big fella on the left side, left tackle, Mr. McKinney, who liked to make it rain and liked to party and have his fun, is no longer here. The Vikings wasted little time not only getting rid of McKinney, but also giving away his jersey. How do you think that would affect the ball club? I know Adrian Peterson, you know, for me, I yelled at McKinney all the time because I never saw him on the ground. He's the only offensive tackle on the left side
that was clean.
That was totally clean at the end of the game. Jim, can you talk about that transition as far as the offensive line is concerned with the Minnesota Vikings?
Well, everybody says that Leslie Frazier is a player's coach, that he's got the guys back, a lot like Gardy. I mean, Gardy is a guy that, you know, is concerned about his players, takes that into account. Well, Leslie Frazier may be a player's coach, but you have to be a player before he will coach you. And he saw McKinney come in, barely able to move, was as big as the both of us combined.
And he said he was on the Serena Williams workout schedule. I don't know what schedule that was, but she moves a heck of a lot better than he has.
Well, I've seen him play tennis. There's YouTube videos of him out there. It looks like he's swatting flies. He's so big, he just stands in the net and just swings away at the balls coming by him.
Well, this guy's had trouble. He went to the Pro Bowl and didn't show up for practice.
Look at it. He had $500,000 roster bonus just to show up. $250,000 workout bonus. If you worked out in the off season, you got $250,000.
How can you not do that, Jim? That just tells you that number 74, Brian McKinney, did not have his head on straight. And I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, out here in the audience, just to cut you off a little bit, Jim, you have an opportunity to win 2 free tickets to the Pro Bowl. Just go to Armchair Report, click on the right buttons and sign up, and you have an opportunity to win tickets to those games. And I bring that up because, again, as I just said, McKinney chose to not go to the Pro Bowl, to show up for practice. This told me a lot about him. Didn't show up for practice in his hometown. That is ridiculous. And now, let it be told, the rumors of the University of Miami being hit with the death sentence. Some people are calling for the death sentence for the University of Miami for this accusations that 72 players. Forget the Love Boat. That's simple stuff compared to what they're calling for at the University of Miami.
All right, let me ask you, as a coach, you do high school, you've worked with high school kids, you've worked with Legion kids. You know, in a situation like this, when you have this much going on. How do you control this? What is the answer?
There is no answer, Jim. It's totally impossible for a coaching staff. I don't care how many coaches you have, but they have over 100 kids. I'll tell you this, as a baseball manager of 25 to 28 kids and have 3 coaches, there's no way you know what those kids are doing. You see them in the morning when they come in at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning when I was at the lowest levels, when you truly check curfew. After that, you see them in the morning. You can't control their lives. They're not professionals in college.
Right.
But I was dealing with professionals. I don't know how a college coach could keep track of a kid that wants to do what he wants to do.
Okay, I have an idea, and you tell me if this is flawed or not.
Okay?
If the NFL and the NCAA go together on policing this.
Yes.
Because the kids, like Terrell Pryor, could just say, oh,
I'm outta here.
bad, I blew it,
Yes.
and I'm in the NFL, and I'm getting paid. Why penalize the kids that are basically
there.
in 9th
Yes.
or future kids?
Yeah.
9th, 10th, 11th graders that wanted to play in Miami.
You know what, Jim? I said this 3 years ago. If it followed them to the NFL or the NBA,
Yep.
it would discontinue because the coaches leave and go to other schools. The players can try to transfer, but they don't have to let them out of their contract or their scholarship.
Commitment, yep.
But the coaches, they bolt town and they get a fresh slate. If that does follow them to the NFL or to the NBA, I guarantee you the enticements to come to a program would cease.
Right, and for the players too. I'm saying, like they did with Pryor, which I think is a great first step.
Sure.
Because he agreed to a 5-game suspension at Ohio State. He was going to miss his first 5 games of his senior
And I
year.
applaud him for that.
And today the commissioner, Roger Goodell, came out and said, fine, we'll put you in the supplemental draft,
Sure.
but you agreed to a 5-game suspension. We're suspending you for your first 5 games as a professional. And I think that may be the the hammer. If the NFL says, look, Reggie Bush, you embarrassed your university, you cost them millions of dollars.
Yes.
We want the
We
millions
want
of
the
dollars,
$1 million
out of
back,
you.
yes.
And if players see that, they're going to say themselves, hey, I can't talk to you.
Right.
Because I want to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
And then they would take the college commitment
More
seriously.
Exactly. And the thing that gets me about this college stuff, and you talk about professional and amateurism, I tell you what, USC was taken down by one individual, Mr. Bush.
Yep.
Who went on to become a major internet star and superstar. But
millionaire.
he's only done very little on the NFL field as far as establishing himself in his career. Miami, you're talking 72 guys. SMU back in the day, they only mentioned a couple of guys. They got the death sentence. I don't think Miami is going to get the death sentence, but I honestly believe
I don't know how they can't not get it.
they're going to be hurting so bad. And this is a private institution, a very elite area, Coral Gables down there in Miami, very, very small school. They should have known what was going on.
Absolutely.
This is Al Newman, Jim Rich here with the Armchair Report, talking about the Vikings and the University of Miami. We will see you on the other side.